everybody, welcome to part 3 of week 3. This is going to be our final video for this challenge, and a winner is going to be announced next week. So make sure you go to the Victoria Marie group so you can participate, and make sure you go to the Victoria Marie blog for more information. All of the links are posted in the description box below. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through some not digital, but some printed photos. What I want to do is walk through a very simple process of managing your print photos. Now, some of you may already have a process. Some of you may not have even gotten started. You may have thousands of print photos. Now, as I've underscored all week long, make sure that you start with something small. Don't feel like you have to go and organize all the photos. So maybe there's just a box or an envelope or something of photos that you have stashed around that you can pull out and start organizing. And you decide where you want to start. Do you want to start with older photos, or do you want to start with newer photos, or maybe just grab a box and go for it? So the only thing you'll need is, of course, your photos, and then something, of course, to label your photos with. So maybe you use a sticky note or a little sticky tab, because you do want to keep track of what photos you are organizing. And then, of course, you'll use these little sticky notes or the little sticky tabs or whatever you use to organize your photos in order to categorize your photos the way that works best for you. So I'm going to show you my system, and I'm going to give you some tips, and we're going to get all of those print photos organized in some way. Now, again, like with the digital prints, this is to allow you to have a jumping off point so that you feel inspired to organize the rest of your photos. Now, if you're like a lot of scrapbookers, then you more than likely have a lot of digital and a lot of print photos. So maybe you start with your print photos first before you go to your digital, or maybe you work on them at the same time, or maybe you work on your digital first and then your print photos. You decide what works best for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I have 2 boxes of photos that really need to be organized a little bit further. This one in particular, so I think I'm going to tackle this box this week for this challenge. Now, originally I was going to do my digital photos, but I decided that these have been laying around for too long, and I'm more than likely to organize my digital photos anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and attack the print photos for the challenge this week, and also for this particular tutorial. Now, you want to make sure you have a few things. Number one, you need something to be able to label your photos with. So however you decide to categorize your photos, whether it's by year, by month, by theme, by person, you decide that you'll need something to label your photos with. You'll also need some type of photo book if you maintain a photo album. Now, I maintain photo albums for the photos that are not going to stay in cold storage. So these albums are out for folks to look at any time. So photo albums, if you don't have them, go ahead and grab you some. I will need to step out at some point today to get some more, because I think most of all my photo albums are almost filled up, with the exception of this one. So I'll need to grab some more photo albums based on how many photos that I want to put in an album. And then, of course, you're going to need some photo safe boxes. So if you don't have these, you can simply go to your local hobby shop, craft and hobby shop, and typically they will have some little boxes that look like this. This, I think, is a Cropper Hopper. One of my viewers had asked or had told me that this is potentially a Cropper Hopper container. I don't know if they still carry that or not, but any type of container that works for you, that's photo safe, that you can keep any of your photos that are in cold storage. All right, so my system is very, very simple, and this is a system that I highly recommend. You don't want to do anything overly complicated, because the goal, of course, is to get through your photos and get them organized. Again, we're starting with a small amount of photos first and then working your way up. Now, this process may take you a while. I have heard of some scrappers where it's taken them almost a year to organize their photos, even more, depending on how many photos that you have printed that are hanging around that need a home in some way. All right, so the process is this. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to review the photos that you selected to organize, and you want to make some decisions. You want to decide which photos you want to keep, which photos you want to toss, or which photos you want to give away. Now, the ones that you may consider tossing could be photos that are damaged, maybe they're blurry, maybe you simply don't want them anymore, or you have duplicates. Now, one of my biggest caveats is that if you are going through some original photos that you can't replace, so older photos that are not digital photos, or you don't have the original film to have them reprinted, then I do not recommend that you toss those photos. If you don't want them, see if there's someone in your family, or maybe a close family friend, who would be willing to have those photos? And the reason why I suggest that is my family has been in a situation where we had a ton of original prints that cannot be replaced, that were thrown away by a disgruntled family member. And it just broke my heart because a lot of those prints were photos of my great grandparents and other relatives, my mom and her brothers when they were kids, and all of those photos are gone. So instead of tossing them, see if you can give them away to somebody. So that's my one caveat for photos that you cannot replace. Otherwise, if they're duplicates, if they're damaged, if they just didn't come out right, then you might want to consider letting them go. The next thing you want to do is you want to, after you've gone through and you decided which ones you want to keep, toss, and give away, you want to organize and categorize the photos that you are going to keep. Now, you can decide how you want to organize those photos, whether it's by year, by month, by person, by theme, by holiday. You select a method that works best for you based on the types of photos that you have. The third thing is you want to find a home for those photos. So whether that would be in a photo album, maybe there's some photos that you can frame, and then of course setting up a cold storage system. And what I mean by that is they're photos that you want to keep and maintain and keep record of. They're not necessarily going to go into an album, or you're not going to frame them out for show, but they're photos that you want to keep, to have on hand. And so you put those in a photo safe box and you store them in a cool, dry place. And I keep mine at the top of the closet in my studio. I know it's cool, I know the photos won't be damaged, and I'm good to go. And then of course you just repeat the process with another batch of photos until you get the process done. Now, I don't have as many print photos right now, so this may take me, I would say, probably a couple of weekends to go through my folder, go through my photos and do this. However, some of you may have thousands of print photos and boxes of photos that you've maintained or inherited over the years. So this may take you a while. Please pace yourself and don't feel like you have to go through all the entire photos in one setting. This is going to take you a while. So grab your favorite drink, put on some music, and have some fun organizing. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start looking through my photos. Now, I have a ton of photos, and these are all photos I printed right when my kiddo was first born, and there might be some other photos in here too. Alrighty, so I'm going to pull these out of the box, and what I want to do is start going through these. I'm just going to do this a little stack at a time to see what I got here. Now, it looks like some of these are not only of my kiddo when she was born, but also of my honeymoon in Washington, D.C., which has been almost 10 years ago, believe it or not. Okay, so what I want to do is go ahead and create my categories. First off, the ones that I'm going to keep. So I'm going to make a little note here, stick that right there. The ones that I'm going to give away. And this may be simply creating a small little album for my in-laws and then giving it to them or giving them to my mom. And then the photos that I'm going to toss or throw away, those are strictly going to be photos that either I don't want, or they're damaged in some way, or they didn't come out, or they're duplicates. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I just pulled a small little stack just to begin with. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and decide, of course, which photos I want to keep, give away, and toss. So this is a photo of my cousin, so I'm going to go ahead, obviously, and keep that. And then a little photo of my little one years ago when she was taking a picture at nursery school, so I'm definitely going to keep that. Here's an example of a photo that is actually very blurry, and I can't really tell what it is. I know it's from Washington, D.C. when we were touring the monuments and that type of thing, but I can't really see what's in this photo. So I'm going to go ahead and let this one go. And now I'm going to go through and just sift through all the rest of these photos. So these photos that I'm looking at are all from my honeymoon to Washington, D.C. And what I'm looking at so far looks pretty good. All photos that I want to keep. And if you notice, I'm going through this process relatively quickly. I knew that I wanted to make a photo album out of these honeymoon photos. I've already scrapbooked the photos that I wanted to scrapbook a few years ago. So these are just all the extras that I eventually will put into a photo album. All right, here is another photo. Again, it didn't come out very well, and I took this photo at night with not the best digital camera, so I'm okay to let that go. Here's another photo that didn't come out well, so I'm gonna go ahead and toss that. Alrighty, so these are all the photos that I'm going to keep. These 3 photos I'm going to toss. Again, I'm letting them go because they're blurry and they're just not really good pictures. And I don't need to give anything away from that stack. So I'm ready to go on with the process. Alright, so here is a photo of me standing in front of the U.S. Constitution, which of course is enclosed. And the photo didn't come out well, mainly because it's very dim in the room to prevent damage to this original document. And so the photo didn't come out well, and of course our camera sucked at the time. But this is the only photo that I have of me in front of the Constitution. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it, and I'll probably put a note somewhere on it using a label saying U.S. Constitution or saw the U.S. Constitution or whatever, even though this photo didn't come out very well. So this will be one of my caveats to tossing photos, is if you only have one of something or you don't have a good photo and it's the only photo that you have of that particular event or that particular person, then you might want to consider keeping it. But I don't think I have a better photo of this either in the scrapbook or even in this pile. But I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this just in case. And the same with the picture of the Declaration of Independence. Again, it didn't come out very well. I can read that this is the Declaration of Independence in the photo, but I don't see it very clearly. I don't think I have another photo for it. Now, if I didn't want to keep this, I could certainly go online and grab a photo from the archives to put in my photo album. But I'm going to go ahead and keep this, mainly because I'm in the photo. So I'm going to go ahead and decide to keep these photos. All right, so these were all the extra photos that I had left from my Washington, D.C. honeymoon. So I'm going to go ahead and keep these. Obviously, you notice the stack is much bigger. And so what I'll do with these photos is I'll go through and put them in order based on how the events happened during our visit. And then these are going to go into a small photo album. These are all the photos I'm going to toss out of the stack. I don't need to give any of them away. I obviously want to keep all these photos, but these photos I'm going to go ahead and toss. It wouldn't serve any purpose to give them to anybody because they're blurry. So I'm going to go ahead and toss those away. All right, so got the photos sorted for the first round. So these are obviously all the ones that I'm going to keep. And then these are the ones I'm going to toss. And either they were photos I printed because I want to scrapbook them, and I probably did scrapbook them, but I cut them down, or they're on some cardstock, or they're duplicates. These are all I've scrapbooked already. Some of them are just extras. Some I don't like. These are all extras. I know it can be hard to throw away certain types of photos, like particularly ones of your kids or of someone who has a great meaning to you, but these are all scrapbooked, and no need to give them away because, you know, I cut them up and trying to trim them down. These are all duplicates. I don't know what that's a picture of. Anyway, so I'm okay to let those go. Again, your toss criteria is unique to you. So you have to decide what photos you want to keep or give away. I have nothing in the giveaway stack because all of these photos I do want to keep. I do have some extra bits hanging out here, like this little photo that I actually took a digital copy of because I didn't purchase the photo. But look how precious that photo is. Oh my goodness. So anyway, that's going to go in the keep pile. I have extra ultrasound photos as well from when we had our first appointment. So I think these are going to go, I have them in her baby book, but I think I'm going to just put these in a I guess like one of those photo safe like sleeves of some sort, and then keep the extras because I don't want to throw those away. And then I have some extra things here that I need to decide what I'm going to do with, but not important at this point. So what I'm going to do next, and what I advise you to do next, is of the photos that you decide to keep, make a decision about where you want to put them. So I'm going to organize these based on theme, because some of these are birthday photos, some of them are labor and delivery photos, and then I think some are from my baby shower. So I'm going to go ahead and separate those out. And then I'm going to use a stick-it note to go ahead and label those. And all of these photos here are going to go into a photo album. So these are going to go away. I don't have any that I'm going to give away. And I think I am good. So what I'm going to do is going to take a break real quick. I'm going to head over to my local craft and hobby store, get a couple of photo albums, get out of the house for just a tiny bit, and then when I come back, I'm going to go ahead and put these all in albums and then be done. Have all of these photos separated and labeled, and for the time being I'm going to go ahead and stick them in my box But as I mentioned, all of these are going to go into albums of some sort. Now, another reason why you want to sort and label and categorize your photos is that if you do decide to put this in an album, or if you decide to scrapbook them, then you know which photos that they are. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention when I was going over some of the tips in organizing your photos is you also want to consider which photos you want to scrapbook, right? That's the major thing, because we're memory makers, right? So we want photos that we want to scrapbook. Now, a lot of the photos that I've organized here are photos that I have scrapbooked already, although there are some photos that I haven't yet. So us preparing my daughter's nursery when she was born, I haven't included that in her baby book yet, mainly because I haven't gotten that far in her baby book. And so I need to do that. So there are going to be some of these photos here that I'm going to designate to scrapbook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set those aside, and I'm just going to put them in a simple little envelope that I can keep on my desk, or I can slip into her baby book so that when I get ready to scrapbook these photos, that they're already there and I don't have to worry about them. I already have them picked out. So another category that you probably want to make with your little sticky note is photos to scrapbook, right? And then you'll have those set out ready to go. So I'm actually going to go through the stack and do that so they don't end up in the photo album. And then let's see, I've got a whole bunch of other photos for just random photos when she was little that I need to organize. I know all of those are for DC, that's labeled. So all of these are ready to be put in a home, whether back into a photo safe box or in an album or to scrap. So from this stack of photos about getting the baby's room ready, I picked out just a few photos, my favorite photos that I like these are all the dolls that my daughter inherited from me, and then some pictures of her room as we were putting together and once it was done, her little crib and all of that. Her room was very colorful. I think if I were having a baby now, I probably wouldn't have used so many colors, but I wanted it colorful, so there we go. Anyway, so these are all the photos that I plan on scrapbooking. So those are set aside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a container, as I mentioned, to house those photos. So I have these plastic zipper bags that I got from Daiso, and you may have a Daiso in your area, but these were only $1 for 30 of these. Those are amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck those photos in here. And so I know that they are designated for scrapbooking. So when I get around to it, that they're good to go and I can use those photos. I may need to go and print some more of these photos in different sizes because her baby book is a pocketed scrapbook. But these will fit obviously in a pocket scrapbook, but there may be some that I want to resize. But in any event, I've designated the ones that I want to scrapbook out of that stack. I would go and do the same for all the rest of these if I needed to, depending on if I've already scrapbooked those photos, or if I'm not going to scrapbook them, then they'll just go into an album. A lot of these photos have been scrapbooked already, so I don't have to worry about that. So anyway, I'm going to put these photos in this little plastic sleeve, and either I'm going to keep it on my desk so I know to work with those photos, or I'm going to stick it in her baby album so that when I work on her baby album, those photos are already set aside and ready to go. So those are all set, and the rest of these, I believe, are going to go into albums. Now, if I were going to keep this in cold storage, then what I want to make sure to do is, of course, put them in order according to my organization scheme. And of course, you develop what organization scheme works best for you. So you may do it by year, by subject, by person, by event, by theme, however you want to organize it. And then you want to create, obviously, some labels so that as you're going through, say, your photo safe box, then you know what photos are in there and what order that you want them to go into, whether you're going to scrapbook them or put them in albums or just keep them in cold storage. Now that the photos have been sorted by their categories, now the next step, of course, is to find a place to house your photos. Now, even though I plan on putting these in albums, I'm going to go ahead and put them back in my photo safe box. You may go ahead and opt, if you have your albums around, to go ahead and stick them in the albums and be done with it. I'm going to go ahead and put them back in the box until I'm ready to put them into albums, or maybe I'll just maintain them in cold storage. I think all of these, I believe I'm going to go ahead and put in albums. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to create dividers. Now, in the other photo box, I just use some little sticky tabs. Where's my sticky tab at? Here we go. And just labeled it, and it was just fine. But if you're going to be housing your photos permanently in a photo safe box, then you want a system where when you come and look at these photos, you know exactly what photos are in the box. So the first thing you want to do, of course, is label your box. I just have this simply as photos because my intention was that these photos were going to go into an album. But I might go ahead and change this label and say, Now, these are photos from 2010 or 2009 to 2010 or whatever. So you label your photo box so you know exactly what's in there. And then you can create some dividers. Now, here's the thing. Some of these PhotoSafe boxes come with some dividers, but you can certainly make your own if it doesn't, or if you're using another type of box that doesn't have a divider in it. So what I like to do is cut down some cardstock, and this is just some scrap cardstock that I had in my stash. Of course, you can use white or any color that you want, or pattern paper, doesn't matter. And I'm also using my tab punch. I highly recommend getting one of these punches because it's so useful. Of course, if you don't have a tab punch, you can die cut some tabs, download a file, die cut them on your electronic cutter. You can certainly print out some cut aparts and cut out some tabs. So don't make this difficult. Just use what you have on hand. I also created some labels using my label maker. You can simply just write on your tabs as well if you don't have a label maker. And then I'm attaching them using my tiny attacher. So here's my tiny attacher here. Again, you can use a tiny attacher, a regular stapler, or you can just glue the tabs on. So now that I have them all sorted and organized, I'm ready to go ahead and put them in the box. Now I like to stagger the tabs so that when I look at the photos, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I can immediately see it with these staggered tabs. It just makes it a whole lot easier to look what's in the album. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these dividers and get these photos in the photo box. Now, some of you might ask, how do you decide whether or not you're going to keep, toss, or give away a photo? Now, tossing, of course, is pretty easy, and I kind of explained this at the beginning. If the photo is damaged, it's fuzzy, you have duplicates of it, or you simply don't want it, you can make that decision to let it go. But before you decide to toss, see if you can give it away. Is there a family member or a friend or somebody who would be happy to have your extra photos? I certainly don't give away my damaged photos or fuzzy photos because, unless it's something significant and it's the only one photo that I have, then that's one thing. But if I'm going to give it away, I'm going to make sure that it's a nice duplicate so that the person I'm giving it to can enjoy it. I do not toss original photos that I cannot get other copies from. So original photos from 35mm or Instamatic or even older than that, I hang on to. If it's a damaged photo and if I can get it redone, or not redone, but if I can get it fixed, then maybe I'll go ahead and have it fixed. I've only done that with one set of photos that was damaged by water, and I was able to have them restored. Otherwise, if it's a digital print like all of these in here and I don't want it, or it's a duplicate, or it's messed up, then I'm going to go ahead and toss it and let it go. But as you can see, I kept a ton of photos and I only threw away just a very small amount of photos that I just didn't need anymore. Now, in order to keep a photo, the photo has to mean something to me. So keep your very, very favorite photos. And I like to keep just a little extra on hand because you never know when you'll need a photo for a project. Those of us who have children, they're always doing projects where they may need a photo of something. So there may be those opportunities that come up. Plus, it's just great to go back and look at these photos. So whether you keep them in your cold storage box, PhotoSafe box, or if you put it in an album or you choose to scrapbook them, it's just great to have these photos around and maintain them and manage them in a way that works best for you. I wanted to show you, I stepped out for a minute, got some photo albums. They were on sale at Michael's for 60% off. How timely was this? It was so great. I got 2 more of these albums. I have one in this same pattern, so I bought 2 more of those. Those were, I think, $15.99, got them for 60% off. These were $9.99, got them for 60% off. This was $39.99, got it for 60% off. I mean, seriously, not bad at all. So now I have my albums. I have this photo organizer that I can use for future photos that I print out. I have this organizer, but with the clear cases that I use for embellishments and die cuts, and I'm getting ready to clean those out. They sit right underneath my craft desk there. And so anyway, I do want to start using these actually as photo storage because I've noticed that if I don't have a ton of photos in my PhotoSafe boxes, they don't sit up straight and then some of the photos start bowing a little bit. But this is a perfectly okay solution. I don't want you to think that it's not, but you can also get one of these little photo boxes here from your local craft and hobby store. This one is by Recollections. You can also purchase them on sale. And again, it's 14 by 9 by 12 by 5. And inside, let me show you this a little bit closely because some of you who aren't familiar with this might ask me about it. It comes in this case. Let me open up the case. And inside the case, you get these individual plastic cases. And then you can just open them up and slip your photos right inside there. And what I like to do is take my label maker, and you don't necessarily need a label maker. You can handwrite labels if you want to, and then you can label like the year or the theme or the month or the person or whatever it is that you have in there. So all your photos are in the cases, nice, safe, and sound. You can also use this organizer for other things too. So that is another solution in addition to your photo safe boxes, in addition to putting your photos in. All right, folks, we have come to the end of our challenge. If you haven't already, go ahead and head on over to the Victoria Marie Facebook group. That's where you can post pictures of your before and after. Remember, the goal this week was to start small. So whether you do your digital photos, maybe you spend this weekend going through a box of printed photos, just find a starting place and get it done. Work out an organization system and a purge criteria that works well for you. Everyone is different, individual, and unique. So what may work for me may not necessarily work for you. But I hope that you got some great tips and some insights into how I organize my digital photos as well as my printed photos. If you have any questions, post them below. If you have any unique way of which you store your photos and manage your photos, I'd like to hear particularly from those of you who already have a system in place that's worked for you. If you don't mind, post below and share that with the community. We would love to hear about it. All right, guys, until next time, thank you so much for playing along. A winner will be announced next week, so stay tuned for that.